Hello, I'm Abigail DeJarnett.
My name is Allison Lind.
I'm your host, Grant May.
My name's Noelle Fitchett.
And welcome
back
to the Counteract Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Counteract Podcast. As you can maybe tell by the sound, or if you're on YouTube, you're watching, we're on the road this week, and I'm working with what I have, meaning the audio in this episode is not the best. We were recording in a hotel room, and my microphone was off half of the time, so I just wanted to give that little PSA before we get into the episode. I hope you guys enjoy nonetheless. Paige has a lot of awesome stories and wisdom to bring, and yeah, hope you guys enjoy the episode anyway. Hey guys, welcome back to the Counteract Podcast. My name is Allison Lind. I'm the host of the People in NYC segment, and we are coming to you guys from a hotel in Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm here with my coworker Paige. We're here for the National Christian Housing Conference. It's been a long day, guys. Words are not working, but we're bringing you an episode because we're trying to stay consistent and faithful. Yeah, and we're going to get into some fun little topics about working in pro-life ministry, and Paige just has a lot of wisdom to share with you guys in this episode. Before we get in,
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Nah, you got it. Before we get in, I'm going to tell you guys about our amazing sponsor, Patriot Mobile. You know them, you love them. They are America's number one. I'm doing this out of memory, guys. They're America's number one Christian conservative wireless provider. They support the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the sanctity of life, and our first responder heroes and veterans. And they make switching over to their service super easy. You can keep your phone, your upgrade, your plan. Their customer service team is 100% US based, and they're going to make it a super easy and fun process for you guys. And you can actually get free activation if you use the code Counteract USA. You go to 972 Patriot or patriotmobile.com/counteract. You know it. You can watch any other Counteract episode ever and also get the code.
Put it in the caption.
We'll put it in the description below. Yeah, I just want to talk to Paige a little bit about, I don't know, like working in pro-life ministry. You've done it for 10 years now?
Almost 10 years, yeah.
Almost 10 years. How does that feel?
Yeah, crazy. Like, looking back, I'm like, wow, where did all the years go? It's been a decade. I don't even feel like I'm that old.
Yeah, that is crazy. What got you into it?
So, when I was 21 years old, I wanted to volunteer at my local maternity home back in Savannah, Georgia, where I'm from. And after just volunteering there, I didn't even know much about abortion and pro-life ministry. I knew that abortion was overall not good. That's what I heard. And so anyways, just after being there and seeing what the ministry was about, what pro-life ministry truly is about, caring for the whole life, the whole person for the whole life, from beginning to end, and learning what abortion really is and God's heart on that, God just really like birthed that passion in me and gave me that vision. So that's where it started for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did he like call you into working in the there?
Yeah, so like I said, I started volunteering. It didn't last long. It was like a week or so, and the staff there, my friend that was a staff member there, sat me down and actually told me they were looking for a full-time employee, and I was like, I'm not your girl. And I went home, and it just stuck with me, like what she was saying and her offer, and I prayed about it, and that's one of the clearest like moments I had heard God say go. And so I just followed him, not knowing what would happen and not knowing what that ministry work would look like. But I went, and yeah, it changed my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you've worked, so you started in Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
and you were at the pregnancy center.
And then, yeah, so after the maternity home in Georgia, I was there for a few years. I was a live-in staff member there. And then a few years after that, I worked in a pregnancy center for a few years. Yeah.
Right. And then, just to track the timeline, you came to New York. But then you were at another maternity home, right?
No, only that one maternity home.
So
yeah.
Divine and then pregnancy center. And then the Lord called you to New
York City, yes.
From Georgia. Which is such a crazy story.
Yeah.
You want to tell that one?
Sure. Yeah. So, like I said, I first got into pro-life ministry at the maternity home when I was 21 years old. And that has been my heart's passion ever since that experience. It really has. So after working at the maternity home, a few years after that started at a pregnancy center in Savannah, and was there also for a few years, and felt my season there coming to an end. And I didn't understand that, and I was really sad about that. And I just surrendered that to God, that desire that I had in my heart, and told Him exactly what I wanted, what my desires were, and how I wanted to serve in pro-life ministry. I just said, Lord, I want to go to a place where I want to give my life to this type of ministry. And I want to go even to a place where abortion is more prevalent, and where these women and children are more preyed upon, and where there is less help for them. And if you call me to a place away from my home, I will follow you there and go there. And a few months after that, a good friend of mine, I went with a good friend of mine to New York City for the first time. We were visiting during Thanksgiving, and walking back from the Macy's Day Parade, I found the brochure for Expect Hope on the Ground, which is the maternity home that I work for now. And I thought it was so cool because I remember seeing the words Expect Hope, and I was like, that sounds like a Christian thing in New York City, which is a really big deal. And so I reached out to them. I looked them up on social media, reached out to them just to figure out how I could support them. Pro-life ministry in New York City, again, a huge deal. So after connecting with them and just talking about what their needs were, they ended up offering me a job and telling me that someone with my experience was exactly what they were looking for, which was crazy. So that lined up with everything that I had surrendered to God and prayed about. Like, New York City is the abortion capital in the United States, at least in the United States. Women are sex trafficking is huge in New York City, like bigger than probably any other part of the country. And there is less help for them in New York City. We are the only ministry like ourselves in all of New York City, all 5 boroughs. So after I learned all those facts and I prayed about it, I came to New York City to work at Expect Hope.
Wow.
Yeah.
We love having her. Not that, I mean, I just got here, but
I'm so glad.
thankful that you're like at the ministry.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're coming up on an election, just to get right into the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But I would love to hear, I don't know, do you have any stories that stick with you that have influenced your view on how we treat abortion in the United States? I know you talked about at the pregnancy center, you would have women come in all the time, in their 3rd trimester, looking for abortion and that kind of stuff, or had it in their past.
Yeah.
Are there any experiences such as that stick out to you that have maybe influenced further influenced the way that you do ministry, but also the way that you approach how we talk about it in public, how we vote about it, those kinds of things?
Yeah. Well, so I don't know if this answer would answer your question, but so my experience at the pregnancy center specifically, what I feel like what I believe is hinged on 100% what the Word of God says, but also my experience at the pregnancy center. And what I saw was that abortion, no matter what the situation was for the client, whether it was a single woman in a bad situation, an unfortunate situation by herself, or a married couple that was having problems, or a couple that was going to end their relationship, or something like that. I even had married couples coming in that were going to get divorced and they found out they were pregnant. Whatever the situation was, abortion never made it better. It never freed the single woman from being tied to someone she didn't want to be tied to. It never solved the problems in a married couple's life. It never it never solved anything, and it only created more problems and more trauma for the people that were dealing with the unplanned pregnancy. And so after seeing that, and that just, it truly made me believe that abortion did not actually help anyone, and it didn't help families, and it was the opposite of God's heart, which is for families. So what I want to say about this. Yeah, so I just know that, like I said, God's heart is for families, and not even, physical families like mom, dad, children, but spiritually speaking, spiritual mothers and fathers and sons and daughters, and discipleship, and all that. So like I know that Satan, because that's God's heart, Satan is gonna go after that and attack that, not just in the spiritual realm, which we already know. He doesn't want anybody, he doesn't want believers to make disciples. He doesn't want souls that are hell bound to be snatched out of the fire and, receive Christ as their savior. And on the flip side of that, in the physical realm, he's also after the family unit. And I believe that abortion is 110% a tactic of Satan to destroy that, that God created to. And it's beautiful, pregnancy, husbands, wives, or single mothers also, and their stories. And so to answer your question.
That's so good. Yeah.
Okay. And I think which I don't know if this goes along with what you're saying, but I mean, the culture definitely talks about like abortion as a solution to problems, which you and I have already said, like we have seen, and it's obvious that it doesn't help or heal anything or anyone. And what isn't reported and what I've seen with my own eyes in my 10 years of work in this ministry is that when we empower the woman to walk this out and walk into motherhood, whether she wants to or has a desire or not, or feels supported, when she feels empowered and has her needs met and the support that she needs, the pregnancy, the unplanned pregnancy, and what was once an unwanted pregnancy becomes the motivation to do better and to work toward a brighter future than what she has. And even clients that I had in the pregnancy center, I had clients come in that were saying, we're getting divorced, like we just need to get an abortion. And after separating them, taking the woman in the room, the husband waiting in the waiting room, praying with the wife and hearing her heart on it, and just seeing them, like after they had prayer and counsel together for that situation, even they, realized like the Lord spoke to them in that moment, and they came together and agreed that they wanted to keep the baby, and that worked as motivation for them to fix their marital issues and stay together and fix whatever other problems that they had. So I agree with you about.
That's the kind of stuff that like people don't acknowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it if you're not a Christian, you're like, oh, you're just gonna like use God, but truly, like God is so much bigger than a Christian. Like he's so much bigger than those situations, and you never know what he's gonna do. I mean, we've even seen it in our home. Like, I mean, you probably know more of this because you've been at the ministry longer than me, but even in my time, I've seen two of our moms give their lives to Christ.
Yeah.
One of them dedicate her baby. It's like, okay, like something's happening here.
Yes.
Something's working. Like they aren't living in all of these things that culture says they'll live in,
Right.
oppression, anxiety, poverty. Like there's God's on the move somehow.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know if you have any cool testimony stories, like any ones that really like stick with you from ministry about like what God has done either in a mom's life or in a coworker's life. I don't know. Do you have?
That's a good question. Let's see. One of my first residents at the first maternity home that I was at, who I grew very close to. She came into the home addicted to meth. She was 18 years old, and the father of her baby, was involved in gang activity. She ended up getting kidnapped by someone who was like a rival gang member of like his gang involvement as retaliation against something that he had done. So she got kidnapped. She's addicted to meth, out of her mind, gets kidnapped by this rival gang member and taken somewhere, and like the whole gang jumps her and like beats her. And she somehow escapes, gets noticed by police. She's like running down the street, gets noticed by police, gets arrested because they can tell that she's on something, but taken to the hospital to get evaluated because they just beat her up so badly. So she's bloodied, she's bruised, and looks real rough. And she remembers, she always said that she remembered thinking that night, she was like, I was supposed to die that night. I was supposed to die that night. Somehow I escaped. And I never acknowledged God after everything that I had been through, like childhood, and then this horrible relationship I was in, and drug addiction. And she said that she remembered thinking like I was supposed to die that night and I was going to, but somehow I got away. got to the hospital, and a routine pregnancy test they do for any woman that comes into the ER usually. And the pregnancy test came back positive, which blew her mind. She was scared that she was going to be in trouble with her parents, but also like, wow, if somehow she had the clarity of mind to say like, oh, I've been doing meth. Like, there's no way this baby is going to be okay. And so someone kind of affirms her in that thought process that she had, that she needed to have an abortion. The baby's not going to be okay. She's been addicted to meth. Drives her to the abortion clinic. And her parents found out and came and got her, thank God, and caught her in time at the abortion clinic. Take her home and find us, the Living Vine, the maternity home. Sorry, guys. And contact us and bring her to us. And she's still out of her mind, like coming off of meth, cussing us out, yelling at skin and bones, like sores all over her from like the drug stuff. And tries to escape the home a couple times to go to the abortion clinic, and is just an absolute mess. Finally gets to a point where she's coming off. She's been there about a week, coming off enough of the drugs where she's just sleeping and resting, and gets to be more like herself. So she starts talking to us like she's in her right mind. She's not like coming off the drugs anymore. And at that point, then she kind of started just opening up and kind of seeing what we were about there, and figuring like, I have no way to escape here, so I'm just going to go with the program and see what happens, and see if I can stick it out. And, it ended up being a beautiful experience for her. She ended up accepting Christ and getting off drugs completely, and turning away from that, and being like our little missionary wherever she went, just like telling people in grocery stores about like her story about her son, and how she found out she was pregnant, and where she came from, how she came into our home, and her story of accepting Christ and everything that he had done for her. And it was just amazing to see, like, because we took pictures of them on their first day coming in, and to see her picture, like skin and bones, like bruised and bloodied, and the sores all over her from like the meth addiction, and just like her countenance also, and then to see her like healthy and beautiful, and her flawless skin, and just carrying like joy with her everywhere she went, and just telling everyone about Jesus wherever she went. And she actually ended up speaking at our banquet that year, just about telling her testimony. And she was so excited to be a mother. And I probably have never seen a mother like so sweet with their baby, a first time mom so sweet with their baby, to be 18 years old, when she ended up having Josiah. And yeah, she just ended up being like family to us, like so sweet. And it would help us, as a resident herself, would help us talk to the new residents that were coming in, and like telling them about the program and trying to comfort them. And so just seeing that, and she ended up going back and even being an example to her family, who they were a little, they had like a rocky situation also. Thankfully they got her to the Living Vine, but she ended up having like stronger faith than any of them, and going back and just like, reminding them of God's faithfulness, and the gospel and all of that. And just so
okay. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, makes me want to cry.
She was so sweet. And even like to date, I am friends with her on like social media and stuff. And so Josiah is about 9 years old almost, and I mean, she, like, her favorite thing in the world is being his mom. Like, it's just so beautiful. Like, when I think of testimonies and turnarounds, especially in programs like maternity homes and stuff, I always remember her. And I remember that she came in kicking and screaming, wanting to leave, wanting to have an abortion, and just like where she is now. And that's when I think like our culture talks about abortion like it's a gift and like it's freedom, and like that is not God's best for us. God's best is empowering us in motherhood, in the children that he gives us to have, and whatever the circumstances are, however the pregnancy comes about, it's not the brokenness that comes with abortion. Wow. Yeah.
That's so good. I literally have no words to follow that because that's so good. This is backtracking a little bit, but I would love to hear your testimony. Speaking of testimonies.
Yeah, so I'm from the South where it's the Bible Belt and everybody is a Christian, right? Um, so I grew up in a home with two parents who always had a really rocky marriage. Um, it was really rough for them, and that just kind of like naturally spilled over to me and my brother. So we were like experiencing a lot of like emotional and mental trauma because they always had something going on. Um, and they made a lot of bad decisions, like very unwise decisions. Even like they look back now and they're like, wow, that was just really bad where we were. We were just like lost kind of in a lot of darkness and trying to escape a lot of the struggles that we had by, that's why we were making the bad decisions, but it was only making things worse. So it would be like we ended up getting evicted a few times as a family from homes that we were in, and just always in financial crisis because of bad decisions they were making. And it caused a lot of like anxiety, even for me and my brother who were children. Um, so yeah, I mean, we would visit church here and there and kind of like hear about God and Jesus a little bit growing up, but didn't know like who God was supposed to be to me or how I should apply that to my life. Um, and so I started going to a youth group when I was about 14, involuntarily. My family kind of started making me because my brother started going, and I hated it at first because I was um, at that time like up to things that I really shouldn't have been, and so it was taking me away from doing those things, and I didn't like it. Um, but I ended up, the Lord met me there at that youth group, and it was so just like unexpected, which is just like God. But I ended up like wanting to spend all my time with my youth pastors and the people at church, and ended up, not only on Wednesdays going to youth group, but going to church on Sundays and like wanting to volunteer in other places in nursery, and would like end up having slumber parties with my youth pastors instead of my friends at school. And so just from there, I think just having that hunger and like learning, for God's word, and like learning more about who he is to me, and the like answers and solutions for like the problems that I had, and unlearning some of the things, a lot of the things that I learned as like normal growing up in my family, which we all have to do that, have to go through that. By the time that I was a young adult, I remember getting into ministry, I'm like, wow, I am looking around, and most of my coworkers in this ministry, my colleagues and these directors and all, are people that were raised in church and were very like knew the Bible front to back, and like were in the church culture, and I just had none of that. I was very lost as far as like church culture, like being churched and ministry, and navigating that. I just knew that I loved Jesus, and that he saved me, and that there were other lost people out there that needed help, and I wanted to help them how I had been helped by the believers that had ministered to me. Um, so just a word of encouragement to people out there that don't know their ways around ministries or working in ministries, or how that is supposed to look, or like be, feeling out of place in spaces like church, or um, other ministry opportunities and stuff. Like the Lord has appointed you to be there, and he is working even in your brokenness and your confusion, and that, he's the one that sent you there. It's his mission, even the work that he's doing in you. So ultimately, it's not us that's in control of like what's going on. We just have to say yes to him and submit to him and follow him, and he will be faithful to finish that good work in us. And in my journey through ministry, he has continued to like build me up and redeem me and sanctify me and make me look more like his son, and that he has been faithful to do that.
Do you have any advice for people who feel like maybe the Lord is calling them into ministry, or into kind of the harder like conversations that come with ministry, like pro-life ministry? Yeah. Do you have any like advice, anything the Lord has taught you, anything that like helped you grow?
Yeah. So yeah, for people that are feeling called into pro-life ministry specifically, now it's kind of a scary time to feel called to that, especially to label it as pro-life ministry. But I would say, here's the thing. Satan loves to try to portray pro-lifers and people that work in pro-life ministry and people that believe abortion is not of God and is wicked. Tries to portray at us as a certain way. It's just not true, and the media puts it out things like we just stand on sidewalks and harass women who are broken and vulnerable, and that's all a lie. That's not true at all. And I think just like knowing that and believing that even though that's out there and people that don't know better may have that perspective of people that work at pro-life ministry or hold to pro-life beliefs, just knowing and believing that that isn't true. And if you know your own heart on pro-life ministry and why the Lord's calling you to that, then you know that's not true, right? And like genuine pro-lifer, it doesn't just care about, the baby being born, but actually coming alongside that woman in her pregnancy, um, helping meet her needs, helping support her so that she feels empowered to step into this journey of motherhood. And then even after the baby is born, caring for her, not just physically, her and the baby, not just meeting their physical needs, but helping them spiritually and on their spiritual journeys and mentally and emotionally, and creating safe spaces for them, and helping undo trauma and learn a new way that is healthy. And so yeah, just knowing that that is pro-life ministry and not the evil things that are portrayed of pro-lifers on the media. Yeah, just having confidence in that, I would say.
Yeah, that's really good. I definitely had that fear, like when I was hired for Expect Hope. I knew like none of that was true, but I had that little bit of anxiety coming in. I was like, what if I get here and like everything, the media says is true? Like, what if they're just really mean or whatever? And I got in there, and I mean, obviously, it's the complete opposite. Like, I've never met a more like passionate group of women working together for these moms. And I feel like the Lord, and maybe this is a good like tip for, advice for people going into hard ministries like this, the Lord will actually like reveal more of himself to you through that ministry. Like, I've never learned the truth of the Lord in the way that I have working at Expect Hope. And for those that know me and know my testimony, like, it's always been about the truth for me. And this was just a different, like, I don't know, just going so much deeper into his character and being able to operate out of that. I feel like um it's obviously challenging, and it refines you, especially in a season like this where things are so sensitive. There's vitriol from all sides. People lose family members, friends, loved ones. Um, but like where that, they're actually talking about this in our, like one of our workshops tonight, or our speaker tonight, but this idea that like where there is that like pressure, where there is that challenging, that I don't know the word for it, but the struggle that comes with a ministry like this, you also get a much deeper revelation of God, and you're actually refined in your faith, and you're able to walk with him on a level that it's like, wow, I didn't even know I was like, this was possible. So yeah, I really love that advice. And I also want to encourage all of you out there who are about to vote. Abortion is on the ballot this year. Like, it's a big deal. Like, there's an administration who is willing to enshrine the right to abortion, meaning organizations would lose funding. We would not be able to have a voice in like restricting this. It would make the pro-life job, quote unquote job, the ministry, the mission, a lot harder. Especially in certain states. For like, I think most of our listener base is in Arkansas. It's on the ballot this year, and they're wanting to enshrine that right into the Constitution, meaning like the Arkansas people who vote a majority pro-life will not be able to like have a say in that kind of legislation anymore. And ministries that are doing that work are going to take a hit from that. And so I just want to also encourage you guys out there to like steward your right to vote. But at the same time, like, our hope is not in the government. It's not in politics. And this work, we were doing this work before Roe was overturned. And like, God will still move in those ways. And I don't know, I just wanted to throw that little plug out there, since this is literally coming out like a few days before the election. But
yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that about voting. I don't think we've ever had a more like extreme abortion like policy, is that what it is, on the ballot than we do this year. And like you said, ministries and organizations like ours are being targeted, and it will hinder the work that we do greatly. We've also never faced that before, as far as elections go. And that's the thing. Like, we're at this conference for this National Christian Housing Conference for programs like ours, like maternity homes and things like that want to help these women and children, so that they don't have to choose abortion. So there's another option, real option, practical option for them. And just this conference is full of laborers who work in programs all spread out all over the country, who are helping these women and children for free for years on end, of these residents' lives. And doing things like, finding free cars for them, creating job opportunities for them, and helping them acquire like job skills, and just like actually helping them build a life and a better future. Like, we care about truly helping them. And so just the thought of like our programs being held back from doing that, I mean, that's heartbreaking, and that's exactly what pro-lifers are accused of not doing, is providing actual help for these moms and babies. And it's a lie. It's not true, because it's happening, all over the country.
Yeah. And it's people, I mean, I've been encouraged to meet so many people at this conference who have literally dedicated like their whole lives to this mission. You met a couple that has been live-in staff at a maternity home for 5 years, which is unheard of. They have a baby, they have a life.
3 kids, yeah.
3 kids.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. They have more than just a baby. They have 3 kids. But like that kind of sacrifice, I mean, people like basically bleed for this stuff.
Yes.
And so the lie out there, the narrative that says that like we don't care, we just want to control women's bodies, it's like, that's like such an insult to the people that do this work. And yeah, I don't know. On my end, I think we're both, praying very hard that the election will go in a way that actually empowers organizations like this to do more. That, I remember after Roe was overturned, like the mission, it was handed back to us. Basically, it was in our hands to say, okay, like it is up to the states. What are we going to do about it? And housing ministries like ours have been doing that work for years and years and years. And yeah, it's really powerful. Shameless plug for Expect Hope. We actually have a banquet coming up. And I mean, obviously, if you're listening to this, you're most likely not in New York. So you can't come to the banquet unless you want to fly in. But if anyone who's listening feels called to donate to Expect Hope, we always accept donations. We have a wish list for the mamas to help them with their needs, like when they're expecting babies. They have needs, diapers, strollers, all of that. We have a wish list on our website. But also just any financial giving. It helps us run the home. The women live there free of charge. We meet their housing needs. We buy them groceries. We give them case management, life skills, Bible classes, all of that at no cost to them. And it's only our amazing donors that help us keep operating in that way. So if you're listening to this and you feel called to give in any way, there'll be a link in the description of this episode. You can also visit our website. On Instagram, we're Expect Hope NYC. I should probably know that. Yeah, Expect Hope NYC. Yeah. Just wanted to throw that plug out there for you guys. But also, even if you don't feel called to vote, or not, you need to vote.
Please vote.
Even if you don't feel called to donate, I would encourage you to look up a local resource in your area. I did not realize the Christian housing world was a thing. I mean, it's a national, like there's people everywhere. And like, I didn't know about that. Most people don't know that they exist, but I can almost guarantee you there's one in your area or in your state. Mm-hmm. And I would encourage looking into them. What do they do? How can you encourage? How can you support? Donate, volunteer. Yeah, this is like a whole underground world that nobody knows about. And it's a world that is doing so much good. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yay, thank you for having me.
Of course. You're so full of wisdom and would love to have you back someday.
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. feel free to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. We release new episodes almost every day with different subjects everywhere from worldview to pop culture to telling testimonies. You guys won't want to miss the content we have coming out soon. A lot of exciting stuff. And also your subscription, your rating, all of that, giving the episode a like, it actually helps us bring you guys better content in the future because we get shadow banned. So feel free to support the podcast. We love you guys. We'll see you next week. And go vote.